All right, good morning, everyone. I will call our Public Safety Subcommittee meeting of July 23rd, 2020, 8 a.m. to order, and we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Chief, once again, I'd ask you to lead us as you've got the flag there.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all. I apologize to everybody on the meeting and those viewing at home. If you do hear a baby crying, it is me. Well, it's not me. It's my baby. She's fine. She's just hungry. My wife's taking care of her. All right, we'll do a quick roll. Melissa is not back yet. She's still with Max. Melissa and Max and Minnie are all doing well. I'm here. Chief Baldus.
I'm here. Good morning.
Right. Morning, Chief. Mike Berry.
Michael Berry's here.
Chief Bolter.
Good morning.
Town Manager Maria Capriola.
Morning.
Social Services Kristen Formanak.
Present. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Health District Jennifer Katanis.
Here.
Good morning.
Morning.
I got to cross this one off the list. No more Kevin Kowalski. Mark Kritz. Yep. Okay. Mike Long. Marquis. Mark Massaro. Sarah Nielsen.
Present.
There she is. Hey, Sarah. Chris Peters.
Morning.
Hello, hello.
Good morning, Chris. We got Kevin Clevens filling in for Tom Roy. Morning, Kevin.
Good morning.
Nancy Sheets.
Good morning.
Morning. Karen Stewart.
Morning.
Karen. Neil Sullivan.
Yep, good morning, everybody.
And the ever faithful and always here, Gary Wilcox.
Good morning.
Good morning, my friend. All right, I informed Maria, I unfortunately, or fortunately for you all, I have an 8:30 meeting. So in the event that we're still going, which we likely will be, Chris and Maria will take over, keep the agenda going. So I apologize for that, but we will jump right into it. In our packet, Karen, thank you again, put together our minutes from the June 18th, 2020 meeting. Are there any questions, revisions, amendments to those? Beautiful as always. Thank you, Karen. All right, those will stand. And we'll jump right to the coronavirus response. First, Farmington Valley Health District, Jennifer Katanis.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm optimistic and pleased to report that the positivity rate, which is the number of positive tests over the number of total people tested, remains fairly stable and below 5% for the Farmington Valley. So that is good news. Obviously, as we continue to, slowly dip our toes back into opening up, increasing outdoor activities, etc. Just want to thank our communities for wearing masks and honoring the social distancing and just encouraging everyone to continue to do that because we're not out of the woods yet. We are seeing an increased delay in the time it takes for a test result to be returned after the test is completed. This has been in the news of late, particularly with Quest Labs, which does the majority of the analytical work in Connecticut. So I would just encourage the general public, if you have been tested because you have symptoms and or because you think you've been exposed, please quarantine after your test until such time as you get that test result, just as an added precaution, because if you are positive and it takes a period of time to get the test results back, we don't want you out and about and potentially exposing others. The governor issued an executive order. There is a new travel advisory. It goes into effect tomorrow. There are 31 states for which travelers returning to Connecticut are going to be asked to self-quarantine for 14 days. There is a penalty for those that do not comply with the order. And there are registration forms. You have to complete a registration form. And we will be posting and putting on our website and other things access to the state materials regarding that travel advisory. I think I mentioned there's 31 states for which the positivity rate is above 10%, and those are the states where community transmission is very active and could present an increased risk of exposure. We have obviously been trying to provide support and guidance to our schools as they develop their reopening plans, so we continue to do that. We are also, and I think this has been mentioned, working with the Farmington Valley VNA. We are going to be doing at least 2 drive-through flu clinics in late September and October. One will be in Simsbury, one will be in Avon, and the goal is really to promote flu vaccinations this season and increase our vaccination rates for the flu, recognizing that it will be an increased challenge when we have both flu and coronavirus circulating, and we really want to encourage people to get their flu shots however they choose to do that. Last thing that I'll mention, unrelated to COVID, other public health threats are currently present, and we have to stay vigilant, and those are mosquito-borne and tick-borne illnesses. We have in Connecticut already had one mosquito pool test positive for West Nile virus. That mosquito pool was not in our jurisdiction, but we always have a concern about West Nile in our area, and I encourage everyone to empty out any standing water in their yards. These can be pots, covers for grills. It's been relatively dry, but these mosquitoes breed in small amounts of water in everyone's backyard. So anything we can do to reduce the mosquito breeding habitat, that's what we need to do. And then as more people are taking time to get outside, hike, enjoy parks, etc., please do everything you can to protect yourself from tick-borne illnesses. And we have some recommendations and guidelines for how you can do that on our website as well. So that's it from the Farmington Valley.
Jennifer, thank you. Before I open it up to additional questions, any insight on what they're doing to improve the testing response? Because obviously that's...
I know that the state has been looking and working with other laboratories in the state to see about increasing that surge. With 31 states really, popping and the demand for testing and analysis in those states increasing dramatically, it might be challenging, but we'll see. I know at the state level they are working to try and get other labs increasing their capacity and timeliness.
Yeah. And the only reason I raise it is because, the moment somebody has to go for a test, as you indicated, you got to self-quarantine until you prove otherwise. And with folks working or daycare or other involvement, you're basically stopping life again, and you're at the mercy of the testing center. So it's a particular challenge for those that are trying to get life done. Yeah.
And one other thing, this is somewhat technical, but the Centers for Disease Control this week really doubled up and reinforced the symptom-based clearance strategy and not the testing-based strategy for, those that I've been working with in like law enforcement, et cetera. They're really emphasizing, it's based on clearance and when people meet that criteria regarding fever-free, et cetera, and not testing.
Yeah, I agree. But the moment somebody goes for a test, though, aren't they then out of that protocol and considered COVID positive until otherwise proved, though?
Well, I think to be conservative, we would ask people, especially if they're symptomatic, to buckle down and not expose others.
Yeah, because from an experience I've had recently, not myself, because we went to go get a test for somebody, that person was out of the symptom protocol and considered in the test protocol.
Yep.
So folks, I just want to make sure that that doesn't discourage testing.
Right. No, if you have any symptoms or feel you've been exposed, you should seek a test.
Okay. Thank you. Other questions for Jennifer? All righty. Jennifer, thank you so much again for your work, and getting a lot of feedback from the business community, other folks' daycares. You and your staff doing a phenomenal job helping folks, unbelievably responsive. We know that here, but a number of folks that have interacted with have sought me out to tell me that how wonderful your staff has been. So thank you.
Great. Well, thank you for that feedback.
Appreciate it. All righty. Town managers report. Maria.
Good morning, everyone. So I have some good news to report. The majority of our parks and recreation facilities are now open to the public. So just to recap what is open for those facilities, our parks, our open space parcels, our trails, our tennis courts, the skate park, and then the playgrounds and basketball courts reopened the week of July 6th. So that was a big one. We had a lot of folks who are anxiously awaiting those particular facilities to reopen. Our golf course is open. The restaurant's open for outdoor dining, and we are working to reopen the Golf Pro Shop retail component. Our pools are open. They've been open since June 22nd. So far, things are going really well. There's definitely a demand for that, and I want to give a lot of credit to the Parks and Recreation team for how seriously they've taken the safety protocols, and for our patrons as well. Folks have been really understanding about the safety protocols. A number of our youth sports have started using our athletic fields again around June 20th. Our summer camp is going well. Again, that opened up on June 22nd. Our transfer station is now fully open with the exception of the swap shack that's currently closed. And our library implemented a curbside pickup program for materials. That's also working out really well. We've seen a tremendous demand for that service. Our staff has been processing anywhere in the range of 50 to 60 pickups per day. And on some days, the outgoing materials have reached about 300 items daily that are being processed through that service. So again, just tremendous demand, and the staff there is doing a terrific job to keep up with that. We have made a decision that our buildings will remain closed to walk-ins through at least Labor Day. We are still accepting appointments. We're also doing our best to screen our patrons to ensure compliance with the travel advisory. And we've been trying to share that information fairly widely through our social media channels and news announcements when there are updates, either states coming off of the list or states being added to the list. But again, we're really trying to help widely share and publicize that information within the community. As a reminder, we are not accepting cash payments through September 14th. The drop box that we've placed outside of Town Hall to accept tax payments has worked out incredibly well. And we've received actually over $2 million from that drop box system. So again, that's working out very, very well for us.
Just to be clear, anybody that's listening, there's no cash in there.
No cash. That's right. Thank you. There is no cash because we are not accepting cash. Correct. Thank you. The planning, building, and police departments continue to enforce various sector rules. And our meetings do remain closed to the public at this time. That will be until further notice. And that's to remain in compliance with executive orders on that matter. So we're mostly utilizing Zoom and airing our meetings live on SCTV and at simsburytv.org. And really right now, it's most of our regulatory bodies, it's our elected bodies, agencies that might need to take time-sensitive action on a matter, or any groups that are supporting relief and recovery efforts. We do have some limitations with the virtual setup. We are only able to broadcast 2 meetings live at any given time. And there are some additional resources that are required to make those broadcasts happen. So again, our groups that are advisory and don't have time-sensitive matters have not been meeting as frequently as a result. For our property tax deferral program, the applications are now closed. We received a total of 93 approved applications for that program, and it resulted in approximately $851,000 in deferred revenue. We worked with the health district and the fire district and an urgent care provider to provide some local convenient COVID testing. We had 2 dates at the end of June and 2 dates earlier this week. So we've had a total of 4 dates. And all 4 dates, all of the registration slots were completely filled up. So there was definitely a demand for that service. And we're really, really grateful that our residents were able to take advantage of that convenient local testing. And I will defer to Kristen during her report regarding donations and things of that nature for social services. And again, I'll ask Kevin later in his report to touch on some of the work that the Public Works Department is doing to get our buildings ready. Thank you.
All right, thought I heard a bear. All right, appreciate that, Maria. Any questions for town manager? All right, emergency management, Michael Berry.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
As I say, this is my first one without Kevin, so I got some large shoes to fill, so I'm going to try my best here. As the town manager, Maria said, we've been helping with the COVID testing. We had 4 days that we provided some testing. We had a little problem with the last 2 days. There was a little conflict of location, and we're going to try to rectify that before we try to do any more testing to make sure that everybody's on board and has the same agenda so we don't have the issues we had before this week. The pods that the state is doing for distribution of equipment has shrunk down to the point where they're doing 1 pod per week, and we will continue to work with the state on any equipment that we need to get for the town. The flu clinics, as was mentioned by the health department, we're going to be doing the flu clinic in the fall, and we will be advertising that and encouraging everybody to get a flu shot. And we have the capabilities of moving a lot of people through, so we shouldn't have a problem with bottlenecks. And,
hey Jimmy, you know where Greg's working today, so I can drop the Hilti back off.
The radio station WSIM continues to pump information out that residents need to know. We are working with the social services to try to advertise that the food bank needs donations, and they are still open and are willing to take cash donations as well as any donations of food to help out the people that are in need this time period. And also WSIM is going to start putting out information on bear safety. In conjunction with the ordinance, we'll be broadcasting information that came out in the ordinance so that everybody can be notified about that. This week with the heat wave that we had, we worked with the social services and the town manager. Unfortunately, since our buildings are not open at this time, we normally had a couple places that people could go to cool down during this time period. For safety reasons and for other reasons, we decided not to open up cooling centers at this time like we have in the past. We seem to make it through okay. That's something we're going to have to take a look at as we move on further. Please be kind to your neighbors, and we are continuing to go through this COVID situation. We know that tempers do happen to flare once in a while, but it seems like we're doing pretty well, at least in this area. There haven't been too many squabbles or too many conflicts, which is good. And the last thing I have is pay attention to the sky tonight. The storms are predicted, and some of them may be severe, so keep an eye to the sky and keep informed, and we will be broadcasting anything over WSIM if the National Weather Service puts anything important out. And that's what I have for my report. Thank you.
Michael, thank you very much. Job well done. About 1/10 the time as well, but we won't tell Kevin that. I can't resist. All right, Chief Bolter, police.
Good morning, everyone. Just a quick thank you to Jennifer and crew at the health department for their continued support and guidance. You know, we've had our challenges with both the travel advisory and with symptoms from the workers here, and she continues to provide some very good, timely information for us and help us through with that. With that being said, for the most part, we have a very healthy crew, knock on wood. Our calls for service continue to increase, and we have seen some very interesting things happening over the last couple of weeks, and one of those is the bear activity. And, unless somebody was not aware of all the activity, I'll skip through the day of July 5th unless anybody wants to hear all the details about the bear activity. But it's been very busy. We have had very few calls relating to enforcement of the sector rules, and most of those calls have been people that have been concerned about just groups of people gathering. And what we have found is they're either family members or they're adequately socially distancing, or it's a group of young kids, and once you direct them to distance themselves a little bit, then they do. That is about it, except for the new town ordinance. We are the town is fielding a lot of calls on some particularities of that town ordinance, and we're trying to make our way through those. And so, for instance, some people have asked about certain types of bird seed besides the thistle and the Niger, or adding components to it, or having the bird feeders up at a certain height. So we're addressing those, and I expect that those sort of calls will continue. And we are working on trying to come up with some sort of an education campaign, to allow people to feel comfortable with still attracting their birds without also then attracting the nuisance wildlife. And that's all I have, unless anybody has any particular questions or they wanted some explanations on the bears or anything else.
Chief, appreciate that update. Sorry, I'm back now. And just for one more time for clarification, we did obviously at the Board of Selectmen level pass the ordinance. That ordinance was born out of almost a years-long effort. So there's been some misunderstanding that ordinance was born out of the July 5th date, and simply not the case. July 5th just further shows us that work was necessary and important. But again, that subcommittee was put together back in, I believe, September. And that process obviously worked through here. We took a pause for COVID, obviously, because our attention was elsewhere, and then the board has subsequently passed it. And while I am only one vote on that board, we are very willing to always look at making our ordinances better or more effective. So we do welcome the feedback. And please, residents that are giving that feedback, remember the police department did not create the ordinance. The Board of Selectmen did. So if folks are disappointed or upset, please share that disappointment with me. The officers did not make that rule. They are charged with enforcing it, though. All right. Any other questions for the chief? All right, Chief. Appreciate you and your team's work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Karen, how are our friends at Simsbury Ambulance?
We are doing just fine. Wow, sounding like a broken record. Fortunately everybody is healthy. Knock on wood. We've had issues. We're continuing to go to the state to pick up our allotment of PPE, which my understanding is I believe in the first week of August may be coming to an end from the state providing us any more equipment. I will get more confirmation on that as time goes on. Our good news is we've gotten our third ambulance back, which we're excited about. It has been remounted onto a new chassis, so it's as good as new. So we're back up to 3 ambulances again, which allows me to sleep a little better at night, knowing I don't have to worry about any mechanical issues. And otherwise, we are just hanging in there. Call volume seems to be remaining steady. I'm very happy to see the very few. And
Evan, can you just put yours on mute?
You don't want to hear his radio?
Thank you, Kevin. Sorry. Go ahead, Karen.
That's fine. Otherwise, everybody, like I said, is remaining healthy, which is great, and we're just plugging along.
Excellent. Appreciate that. Yeah, and I did see the update that the new bus is back, so that's good.
Fantastic. It took a long time because of COVID. Unfortunately, timing was horrendous to send it out to get it done, but our manufacturers were quick to get on it, and it basically just all they did was take the actual box off the back of the other one and put it on a new Ford chassis, so it came back pretty much brand new, which is a very cost-effective and fiscally responsible way to get a new ambulance. So,
love it. Okay. We appreciate that for sure. All right, thank you, Karen, and glad to hear everybody's well at Simsbury Ambulance. All right, Chief Baldus, how are our friends in the fire department?
Good morning. Actually doing very well. We continue, as Karen also responded remain COVID-free. Very happy to report that. We are continuing our social distancing, keeping the main stations closed, wearing masks, but we are also continuing to step up our training. We are doing station-only training at this point. We are going to expand that a little bit into next month, trying to maintain to the standards of no more than 25 in any kind of a closer gathering. But training is just so important and critical, obviously, to keeping the skill sets up for our members. So we're trying to do it the best way we can, considering the requirements and recommendations from the Health Department, CDC. We've fortunately can also say that we have nothing in terms of significant calls that have occurred since last time we met. We are certainly aware and keeping close tabs with many of the recent incidences around the state involving some of the swimming incidences that have occurred. Obviously, we know we have a lot of activity on the river, and fortunately, things have always tend to work out well for us. However, just so people are aware, we do have two brand new rescue boats that we do have in service. Membership have been well trained, and certainly they are available should we get into any issues or trouble on the river. Again, passing along, please be very, very safe when you're working on the river's edge or if you're doing any recreation activities on the river. Also, just a reminder for our community that fire hydrants should be maintained free of any kind of obstacles. Vegetation, please don't put plantings around your fire hydrants or put obstacles in front of or nearby, which could hinder our ability to access and use that fire hydrant in the event of a need. So we do appreciate everybody's cooperation in that area. And finally, just some notes in regards to some things that are going on here at the fire district with some changes. Patrick Torville will officially become the new fire marshal, taking over for Kevin Kowalski. This will happen today at 9:30 with a swearing-in ceremony. Kevin, as you know, is going to be officially retiring from the fire marshal's position and from the fire district after 36 years of service. That takes place on August 9th, but because of vacation timeframes and so forth, he felt it was best to move Patrick up into that official position effective today. And Kevin will remain as a deputy in the fire marshal's office, so he still will have some capabilities in that regard as well. So again, we certainly thank Kevin for all of his continued service that he continues to do. And he will also remain as deputy for the fire department on the volunteer side. So Kevin will continue to play an important role in our fire service protection here in Simsbury. Also, Ron Castellitis on Monday, the 27th, will be celebrating his 42nd year of service for the fire district, and that'll also be his last day of working for the fire district as he is set to retire. So we certainly congratulate Ron for an outstanding career with us and supporting the fire district and the fire company in the town. So I just wanted to pass those along.
Thank you for that. And we obviously wish them both wish them well. Just a quick question on river and water safety and an observation, an uneducated observation, but driving around town, there didn't appear to be any access for emergency equipment to get into the river this past weekend, given where folks were parked. There was tents down at the Sycamore. The launch across from the boathouse on Terry's Plain there, the area there was probably about 75 cars. So just wondering, and I'm sure there are additional places where you can put in if necessary, or if we need to mark off those areas, particularly on the weekend.
We can, and that's a good point. We can certainly check. There was some signage. We'll go back and check to make sure that it was there to maintain the boat launch off of Riverside Road for emergency access. And certainly we'll check that out and also work with Chief Bolter and maybe doing a little bit more in terms of sort of surveying that area during the course of the day. Fortunately, one of our boats is actually designed that it can be hand carried to the river's edge and put in. So we do have that capability as well. That's designed so we can go in off of Curtis Park, for example, and other areas that may not be normal in terms of being able to put a trailer with a boat in. But we certainly appreciate those comments. And yes, we are seeing a lot of activity, especially up by the sycamore tree.
Yeah.
off of 185 in that regard as well. We don't have a launch area there, but I know that we have been looking at possibly investigating some level of launch area a little further upstream, which is actually towards Avon in this regard. But to see if maybe we can do something with that.
Absolutely. And again, not critical, just an observation of there were so many folks enjoying the river that it looked like it might be a logistical challenge if emergency services was needed. But
Yep.
As always, you have a backup plan for the backup plan. So we're well prepared. So I appreciate that.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Maria as I have to depart for the other thing I do. Appreciate you all, and I'll talk to you at the next meeting.
Great, thanks, Sean. Next, we have Neil on the Board of Ed.
Everybody, we continue to do a tremendous amount of planning toward the effort of reopening our Simsbury Public Schools. We unveiled a major piece of major presentation this past Tuesday night to our Board of Education. And my understanding, it was very well viewed on YouTube. So a lot of folks out there in town were able to see the presentation, and we are also sending out the PowerPoint deck from that today to give people more information. Per the governor's orders, we continue to plan in 3 lanes, which would be a full return to school with all staff and all students, a hybrid model where about half the students come on any given day and then half are home and distance learning, and you swap out those cohorts so that each group attends school about half the time in person and half the time distance. And then in the event we would have to return to a full distance learning mode. So that's been the requirement to plan in all 3 lanes. In some ways, we are optimistic about a full return given Connecticut's public health data and where it is. But certainly, I think the national conversation about return to school has caused people and a number of teachers and staff members concerns about a full return. So that the word of which mode we might go back in, it will be, from our understanding, directed by the governor, and that guidance is supposed to come soon, early in the month of August at the latest. So we await that, but continue to plan, and we are procuring all the various PPE and hand sanitizer and separate desks and technology and just a tremendous number of items and supplies that we will need to make all of this work. And I will want the public to know, it's in all of our communications. You know that we surveyed our families about return to school and their feelings about what they would do with their own children. We had a 76% rate saying that they would return to schools, only a 4% rate that said they definitely would not send their children back to schools and choose for a distance learning option that we would provide, but a 20% unsure at that point in July when we surveyed. So, and in fact, I think maybe that unsure has grown based on some feedback that we've gotten even since we did that survey. So for our planning purposes, we're going to need to resurvey, and we need a couple of weeks to react to the survey. So it will be happening again on the week of August 3rd to 7th, and we will need to take away an unsure option at that point. People are going to need to tell us whether they intend to send their children to school so that we can staff and get our buildings ready appropriately. So it's hard to plan in such a landscape of uncertainty, but you've all been doing that too. So we're just taking our turn at this point. So I'm happy to pause and take any questions that people have.
Great. Neil, thank you for that update. And will you be circulating the link to the video for folks to watch that, or is that something that we could do through our town social media accounts to try to increase awareness about that session that you all had on Tuesday evening?
Yeah, my understanding, I don't know if it's up on SCTV yet, but I think it should be. So
Okay.
I'll follow. I'm taking this call from home right now, but I'll follow up when I go up to the office.
Great, thanks. Yeah, if we can help you distribute that at all, just let us know.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Any other questions for Neil? All right, thanks, Neil. I'm moving on to Kevin in Public Works.
Yeah, good morning. To echo other departments, we're all healthy. We've been working full staff for quite some time, doing the best we can with social distancing and mask wearing and such. Obviously, we've been working through a heat wave, which has its own set of challenges. From the highway department side, I think you may or may not have seen the crews out in various neighborhoods. We've been really focusing on sight lines. It seems like vegetation has taken over the town. You may in fact see us on state roads, and if you question that, it's really the if the sight line is on a town road, we burden the responsibility of maintaining that sight line. So we're 100 feet up on a state road in several cases, and it's important because, as you can see as you drive around town, it's really overtaken us. We've had large trees coming down throughout the summer, and a lot of them are healthy, and it really doesn't make sense. We had a road closure on Blue Ridge Road, I believe it was Tuesday afternoon, where a tree 50 feet up into a resident's property came, and we had a road closure. But fortunately, it was before we had gone home. We were able to get it cleaned up, and in a couple hours, it was, you never knew we were there, and traffic was able to get around, so it wasn't a big deal. The building and grounds crew, I don't know if they're getting the credit that they really deserve. They've been in the front line of this the whole time, doing a sensational job with sanitizing all the different buildings and such, making sure that all the hand sanitizers are available and everything's wiped down, and the restrooms and other facilities are where they belong. So a real credit to them. They've also got the ballot box. There was a specific design to that they've been working on, amongst all the day-to-day things that just happened. So as a whole, things are going okay, and that's really all I have.
Great, thank you, Kevin. Any questions for Kevin? All right, next is Kristen in Social Services.
Hi, good morning. I wanted to share an update, as Maria said, about our donations. That's one of the things that we're focusing the most on right now. We typically do struggle with receiving donations of food, non-perishable food items, and household items during the summer. And I wanted to remind everyone that we are still working really hard to try to make sure that our neighbors are fed and getting the quality nutrition that they need during this pandemic. A lot of our community members are still struggling very much. We are continuing with our every 3-week food distribution until the children return to school. We recognize that some of our families that rely on the free or reduced meals in school are struggling a little bit extra during the summer. So we will continue with our 3 weeks, which gives us 2 more distributions before school begins. And then we are going to switch back to our every 4-week model. We are actively seeking donations of non-perishable food items, household items, and toiletries, and any cleaning products that you'd be willing to donate. We have a cart outside of Eno Hall every day that we're open, Monday through Friday, between 8:30 and 4:30. And if you have a large donation, we have a lot of community groups that are doing food drives for us. If you have a larger donation, you can call us and we will make an arrangement to meet you and be able to get that securely into the building. We're also still, of course, accepting financial donations, which helps us to purchase food and is also helping us right now to help make sure that folks are able to pay things like their rent and their electricity bills. If you'd like to make a financial donation, you can send that to us at Eno Hall at 754 Hot Meadow Street. And all of our information is on our website as well. We're continuing our efforts with our seniors. We're continuing with our Wednesday lunch distribution and our blood pressure and blood screening checks with the Farmington Valley VNA, and that's been going very well. And for our seniors, we also have a full Zoom calendar. Every day the Zoom is full. We've got classes, programs, events. We've even brought in some entertainers that are doing some live Zoom events. Lots of things are free. Some things like the exercise classes have a low fee, but we're really encouraging people to join us that way. And as Maria shared, Eno Hall will remain closed until after Labor Day for walk-in appointments. We are in the office every day, at least one of us, so we can answer your phone calls. We are answering emails, and we're still able to accomplish pretty much everything electronically. So I just wanted to take a moment to remind everyone of that in light of the fact that we announced that we will be delaying our opening. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'll be here for the rest of the meeting.
Great, thanks, Kristen. Next up is Nancy in the VNA.
Good morning. I'm happy to report, even though we're in and out of facilities and we are still taking care of potentially positive patients, everybody here is healthy. We are under the umbrella of the executive order where our staff have to get tested weekly. That was a little bit of a challenge to implement. It still continues to be, but we've found ways to work around that, luckily. We're fortunate, more fortunate than other VNAs throughout the state. But we've done well. The staff is healthy. The patients are doing well. All of our facilities that we support, the senior living centers, the assisted living, even, especially Anthology that's in Simsbury, everybody's doing very well. And in fact, they're COVID-free. So they're maintaining some really good protocols. We are excited about the flu drive-through clinics with the Farmington Valley Health District and all of emergency response. I think those are going to be incredibly successful. It wouldn't surprise me if we have to do a third. But just so everybody knows, not the entire world is going to want to drive through. We are still working with all of our towns, despite buildings still being closed. We're looking at developing our routine schedule of cold public vaccination clinics, and that will all be posted to our website by mid-August, so people have the opportunity. There are other ways to get a flu shot, and worst comes to worst, we will come to you. So if you have a business, if you have a group, you just have to let us know. We'll make arrangements to make that happen. Other than that, life is going well at the VNA.
Great, thanks, Nancy. Any questions for Nancy? All right, next is Sarah in Main Street.
I'm going to be very quick today as we are in the midst of what I think people are enjoying, which is a lull. The business community is still, doing very well. There have been using the safety protocols. They have had access to PPE. And so Main Street has really just returned to some of the things that we had to drop when the pandemic hit. So there's only a couple places in Simsbury that are currently not open, which includes the 1820 House and the Simsbury Inn and the Riverview. So we are looking at having the hotels open in August, and we're in talks right now with the Riverview and the Health District to see what we can do for the larger wedding facilities.
Great, thanks, Sarah. All right. See, next on our agenda, we wanted to provide a quick update on the ordinance to prohibit the intentional feeding of wildlife. I think that Sean and the chief did a good job of covering that earlier in the meeting. One other piece I did want to touch on is that The effective date for that ordinance is actually 21 days from the date of publication of a summary of the ordinance in a newspaper and general circulation. So we are tentatively looking for an effective date around August 11th for the ordinance. We did send out an information release regarding that just to raise some awareness last week. And we're also working on an educational piece, sort of a FAQ or Q&A type style document that, again, we can do our best to try to circulate just to really help raise awareness about the ordinance. And really, again, the purpose here was education and compliance. You know, we don't want to be punitive. And so we will be really working on, again, that education piece over the coming weeks. Chief or Chris, I don't know if you have anything that you want to add to this?
Nothing.
And it looks like we lost Chris on the call. We've also included in the communication section of the packet, and it is related to this issue. The Board of Selectmen did issue a letter to some of our state officials regarding various wildlife concerns that we have and advocating for statewide legislation that could assist with that. Many states have legislation that prohibit the intentional feeding of wildlife. We do not. So in Connecticut, we're having to tackle that sort of community by community as opposed to just having, again, statewide legislation. So we've included that in the packet. And the Current actually had a very good article about the growing number of the bear population, as well as the related sort of issues, concerns, calls for service. So we've included a link to that as well. Does anybody have questions on the ordinance? All right. Any other updates? All right. Well, thanks everybody for your time this morning. We will have our next meeting a month from now. It will be Thursday, August 20th at 8 a.m. Same place in the sense it'll be Zoom. And we look forward to seeing you all. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Great. Thanks, Nancy. Do we have a second?
Second that.
Thank you, Chief. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Wonderful. All right. And we are adjourned.